I just think that the process is like a little puzzle made of music, and for me, that's always been an interesting thing to figure out. Hi, I'm Susan Stockdyke, and I'm the Associate Librarian of the National Symphony Orchestra. I decided to become a musician in sort of a roundabout way through playing softball. I was super obsessed with the game, and I started playing when I was about 4 or 5, and I ended up playing through my freshman year of high school, and I was also a member of the band. So I was playing clarinet and had recently switched to bassoon. And one day we had a softball practice, and a ball took a weird bounce and hit my pinky finger and jammed it, and I couldn't play my bassoon for about a week. This was just hugely devastating, and I ended up quitting the softball team the week later and pursued music from there on out, pretty much. So I went to school for 2 degrees and a certificate in bassoon performance, and along the way ended up doing little library jobs here and there, and now I'm a full-time librarian of a major symphony orchestra. I do still, however, get to play softball on the Kennedy Center amateur softball team, so everything came full circle. The job of orchestra librarian is not at all what you would picture when you think of, your average public librarian. Our job is a little bit of research librarian, a little bit of acquisition guru, a little bit facilitator, but a lot musician. We talk to conductors about what edition of a piece they might want. We acquire the correct version if we don't already own it. We talk to our string principals about the bowings that they would love to have in the piece, and then we transfer all of those markings to the rest of the section so that everyone matches. We correct errors that we find in sheet music. And one of my favorite things that we do before we distribute music to the entire orchestra is to go through the parts and see if there are any really bad page turns and try to correct them. If someone has to stop playing music that needs to be heard in order to turn the page, that's very problematic. We don't want any of our colleagues to get called out by the maestro for not playing their part. Sometimes that means I have to be really extra creative, and I just think that overall the process is like a little puzzle made of music, and for me that's always been really exciting and an interesting thing to figure out. I want to just take you on a little tour of my pencil case, which is sort of like my instrument these days. So I have this little guy that I carry around with me whenever I travel outside the library, and I store all my stuff in here. So I have a collection of pens and pencils that I use for various things. This is my very favorite pencil. It's a Staedtler pencil 925. It's a 0.9 millimeter mechanical pencil, and I choose mechanical because that way I can just sit and bow a whole part and not have to get up to sharpen the pencil. And I use this for marking bowings in the orchestra, and a lot of librarians use 2B lead, which means that it's a little bit softer and darker and therefore easier to erase. And then I also have a handy dandy red-blue combo pencil that I use for numbering parts. When we get a new set, we have to put how many wind parts there are, 1 through whatever, and then to mark the string part numbers as well. And if I'm using a really old copy, sometimes we'll use the red part to mark a cut if we're just not going to use it again and it doesn't need to be erased. Don't use non-black lead on your part if possible. Thank you from your friendly librarian. This is my favorite pen, which I use to do a lot of hand manuscript. This is a Uniball Signo RT, and it's a 0.38 millimeter tip. It's a roller ball, but it's just really fine, and it's easier to do the really detailed sort of hand manuscript things that you might need to do if you're correcting a part or writing out a part by hand. And then one of my favorite things that I have in here is my straight edge. This is special to me because my dad was a drafting engineer, and this belonged to him, and I think it came in some sort of catalog for a company that doesn't even exist anymore, but I've had it for several years and I've used it for almost any sort of straight edge work that I need to do, and it's just nice to have a part of him close to me when I'm doing library work. One of the very first elements of my audition for the NSO was sending in, along with my resume, a 1-page sample of hand manuscript. And what I chose for my example was the first page of the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, except that I decided to transcribe it for bassoon, and I wrote it in tenor and bass clef. I wanted to sort of find a way to be involved with that piece since I was never a good enough clarinet player to play it. I find hand manuscript to be very fun in general. I think it's sort of a neglected art form as technology becomes more and more prominent in libraries and throughout our lives. Thanks for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you all at the Kennedy Center soon.